Okay, good afternoon, guys, and welcome. I tell you what, in the southwest today, the temperature's gone really down low and everything, and it's been really good. Okay, I have got Dr. Robb here. Hello, Dr. Robb.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
How are you?
Good, man. How are you?
Brilliant. Thank you very much for coming on and joining me tonight.
No problem. It's good to be here.
Thank you so much. Um, I want to talk because we all been through it. We all got addictions. We all got kind of like, every one of us had addictions and everything. I used to have an alcohol addiction. Okay, and I've got addiction for about overeating too. Um, the trouble is, when did you know that you had an addiction problem?
Probably when I eventually wanted to stop the addiction, which in my case was alcohol, and found out I couldn't. There was a lot of things that preceded that, the behavior and the actions when I was drinking, but never really thought it was a problem. Even when I was homeless because of the alcohol, never thought it was a problem. But when I decided to stop, I realized I couldn't. Probably that point there.
Right. Okay. Because you're the founder now of the Rob Kelly Foundation, and you've been doing this now for 20 years. Is that right?
Correct. Just a little over, actually. The website was built about 4 years ago. So, yeah, probably about 25, 26 years now.
Okay. And can you tell everybody about your personal journey of why you come to this point?
Yeah, I started drinking at the age of 9 years old on stage with a musical family. And that was when I was first introduced to alcohol, which is my deal. I drank alcohol most of my life. Went through college, schools, just keep drinking, no problem. And then it kind of turned on me. I wasn't sure when it turned, but it turned on me somewhere when I got married and had 2 children, and everything seemed to be going good, but inside it was breaking down. And then when I lost the houses, the cars, the children, lost everything completely. I went to my mom's, who threw me out, went to friends that threw me out, went to acquaintances that threw me out. And eventually I was homeless in the streets of Manchester back in the United Kingdom. I'm over in San Antonio, Texas. So I'm a long way from home, but that's where it sent me to. And I've not seen my youngest daughter ever since that day.
Okay. What was it that made you pick up your first drink?
It was offered to me, to be honest. There's alcohol. I know now, but I didn't know then. There's alcoholism in the family. So when I took that first drink, I was hooked. I was gone. Alcohol acts differently to my brain than drugs act differently. So there's a slight difference between alcoholic and drug addict. Well, we'll not get into it now because it takes too long to explain, but that was it. So I took that first drink and the whole world seems to be a different place for me. It was phenomenal.
Yeah. So the trouble is, we see many people probably be kind of like, wherever you get, you're going to get your kind of like, your, what can I say, your ages and whatever. A lot of people, because they say it to me, a lot of people will say, well, at the end of the day, you had a choice. You could either pick up that drink or not.
Yeah. I love them people. They're the guys that don't have a problem usually. But with drug addiction, I agree with everybody who says that. You do have a choice. Alcoholism is different. Alcoholism is a born predisposition. So it's hereditary, passed down through the family. So the alcoholic brain mixed with the trauma as a kid, you don't have a choice whether you pick up or not. When it's first given to you, you will become on a fast road to alcoholism. And there's nothing you can do about it. You can't change the way you're born or change your family. So that's the predisposition we talk about, is a biochemical happening in the brain, because my brain is allergic to the ethanol in alcohol. So that's what it comes from. I don't have a problem with drugs, anything, just alcohol was my deal. So I disagree, and I specialize in neuroplasticity and brain science. We've had proven test over the last 15, 20 years that that's not the case with alcoholics. It's the case with drug addicts. You can take a drug, you can take it for a long time that you become accustomed to it and then addicted to it. And then you have the tendencies after that. But an alcoholic needs a change of neural pathways before they stop drinking. They can't stop on their own. It's impossible to stop an alcoholic. And one of the biggest revelations over the last 15, 20 years is that you can't drink yourself into becoming an alcoholic. You either are one or you are not. And again, brain science, medical science, we go back and we test that over and over again. And that's just the case. Now, you might abuse alcohol. You might abuse alcohol more than I did, but it doesn't make you an alcoholic. 5 DUIs, drunken driving charges, does not make you an alcoholic. Just because your doctor said you are, it does not make you an alcoholic. Alcoholism is the only self-diagnosed illness in the world. Nobody can diagnose you as alcoholic. It's what that stuff does to me when I drink it. I act differently to the guys who get up for work next morning doing okay. When I'm rummaging around the house trying to find that empty bottle of vodka that might be a couple of drains in it to get me through to the off license opening.
Yeah. What was life like when you kind of was drinking all the time and you were probably married, because you were married, weren't you, at that certain time?
I thought it was great. No, I thought it was amazing, but everybody around me and my employers and my wife and eventually my children wasn't so enjoyable for them. But alcoholic will say time and time again that I'm not hurting anybody, I'm just hurting myself. That is not the case. Alcoholism infects more people than anything else. See, everybody was infected with my disease. There was always a price to pay when you come into contact with me. That's just the way it was. For my wife, it was trauma and all the stuff and the abuse and the verbal abuse and sometimes physical abuse that she went through during that time. So I thought it was good, but looking back now, it was just a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. And when it went off, boy, did it go off.
Right, so you say about physical abuse. Can I ask, with the physical abuse, when you kind of when that happened, did she actually leave you then, did she?
No, not at all. It was a long time down the road before anything happened like that. But I remember coming downstairs in the middle of the night and she followed me down without me knowing. And she snatched a bottle of vodka off the side of the kitchen and I stabbed her 3 times. I don't remember doing that, but apparently that's what happened. She would get up in the morning with black eyes. I have no idea how she got them, but she told them it was me. I was absolutely aghast when I found that out. But that's what alcoholism does to you in blackouts.
Was it you did it?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Did all that stuff, every single thing. And I didn't think I had a problem. But when it finally got too much, I fled to Spain to make sure I didn't get arrested for attempted murder. And then after 3 months, I came back home again when everything had calmed down and she promised not to press charges. And that's when she left. She took the children, ages 1 and 3, and she left. And that was it. She was gone.
Okay. And what was the critical moment when you decided to change?
I've been on the streets for about 14 months, homeless, literally sleeping on park benches and under trees and in the center of Piccadilly Gardens. There was a bench there that I used to use quite often. And it was about 14 months later, and I finally one night, I dropped down to my hands and knees and started crying. Now, here's the interesting part. I wasn't crying because I'd lost my kids or my wife. I was crying because the first time in my life, right there, I realized I couldn't stop drinking. And these were after the suicide attempts, 6, 8, I don't know how many suicide attempts. And on 2 occasions, they worked. My heart actually stopped and they brought me back to life again. But that was the point when I realized I just couldn't stop. And it took all that for me to realize, because I was always cleverer than anybody else. I was always smarter than anybody else. There's no way I was an alcoholic. I drive a brand new car and I'd live in this amazing house. I mean, I didn't understand it because there wasn't enough information around at that time. I'm talking about the late 70s, early 80s. There weren't that time in alcoholism, apart from 12-step rooms. There was little known about it. And that's why I told myself one day, if I ever get off the streets, I'm going to spend the rest of my life analyzing and testing and scientific research about the alcoholic brain and working with the families. And that's what I've done for the past 25 years.
You've helped so many people. Can you give me one, one story where you've helped somebody that you're really proud of?
Well, I'm proud of everyone I've worked with, but let's see. Let's name a famous ones. I don't know the English people. I know, but Eddie Van Halen was a patient, and he always said you can tell everybody, and he wasn't ashamed. But he came over to us, and we picked him up, and he was a mess. Record company had dropped him. Family threw him out. He was just at that horrible stage. So it was really funny, really, because when I was growing up, because I was always playing with the weekend with the band, I didn't really follow all the music. Like, it's only 10 years ago I heard Pink Floyd and stuff like that, and I have a lot of experience with them guys in the studio. But because he walked up to me in the airport, and he walked up and he said, "Dr. Robb," and I said, "Yes," and he went, "I'm Eddie." I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I didn't recognize you. I had no idea who you are." So, because he's a god over here, of course. Yeah. And then we took him back to the ranch and worked with him for 90 days. And about a month after he left us, he signed a brand new recording deal. And his life turned out to be amazing until the day he died.
Yeah. Let's look at what you're doing now, because now you've changed people. You changed a lot of people's lives and everything, and you're really helping everybody else with their addiction. Could you tell me kind of like, because you've helped a lot of people, like celebrities, you helped loads of people. Is it
Yes.
one person that you try to help, but actually they kind of like either commit suicide or they're just given up?
Well, there's been lots of suicides. That's for a doubt, because alcoholism kills more people than anything else. So there's no track record of it because it doesn't get reported properly. But there was a kid, really, who came to me for help, and he'd only been with us for about 4 or 5 days. And I was out and about doing something, and he called, and I saw his call, but I put it to voicemail because I thought, I could catch him later. I was doing something shopping wise, and when I was less busy, I played the voicemail back, and he says, "I'm in a bad place. I'm okay, but I'm in a bad place, and I don't know what to do. I just wanted to speak to you." And about 10 minutes after I couldn't get hold of him, put the phone down, so I had to call him. And then his mother called and said that they found him dead in a restaurant bathroom with a needle in his hand. That was a hard one to swallow.
Yes. Yeah. Do you have a faith at all? Do you believe in God?
I do. Yeah, I believe in. I think fundamentally, deep down, everyone has a God, really. Atheists and agnostics too. And if you're that bad, suffering from a disease like this, you'll start to believe when the time's right. But yeah, it's not so much like a go to church God. It's more of a spiritual journey. That's what I'm on. I have to feed that spiritual journey every day with little tiny things that I do to help other people. And as long as I do that and other things that I have to do, everything's good for me, so I don't question it. There've been too many things in my life that are miracles, absolute miracles that's happened to me and people around me. So I have to, I don't have to, but I do believe strongly that somebody up there, if you're doing the right thing, is looking after you.
Yeah. When I was 18 years old, I used to, as every teenager do, go out drinking, acting up with their mates. But with me, I went to a certain point in my life where drink was the main issue. I lost a lot of friends. I was married. I got married young. My marriage ended within 4 months because I beated my wife up to the point that I nearly went to prison. And the trouble is, though, these days when people, because I was drinking whiskey, I was drinking whiskey all the time. But these days, though, sometimes it takes a big person to admit that they've got a problem. Do you agree with that?
100%. It took me about, 10 years to finally, say like, oh my God, I can't do this. I don't know what it is, but I can't beat this thing. Because I see it time and time, especially with businessmen, you know, they come and think they rule the world, and, you know, there's just, and they fail, and they just, you know, it's a very vicious disease. And I mean, the general public don't know. I mean, if you mention to my dad, God, you know, he's back home in Manchester. You would ask him years ago when I was struggling, he used to ask, just stop drinking, Rob, what's wrong with you? Your kids want you, or you're going to lose the business, or your wife's going to leave you. He didn't understand, and nobody did. It's like, how can you put your children first before alcohol? But you have to understand the brain science, and it's new science that we did evidentiary research on, based on facts, not based on anything else, but facts, case studies. That the alcoholism kills more people than anything else in the world, period. Or it might go down as cirrhosis, it might go down as car crash, it might go down as the flat being burnt down. But at the end of the day, alcoholics don't get reported. So it's a huge disease. There's no choice in this. And I'm talking about alcoholism, not talking about drugs. Alcoholism with the predisposition. You don't get a choice. As soon as you start that first drink, all bets are off. In my case, it was 9 years old. Some guys, it's 40 years old. I don't care what it is, but it'll happen. If you know, it might skip a generation, but at the end of the day, it will happen. And we get these guys who just like, it's not going to happen to me. I was one of those guys. If there was anybody that was going to beat this alcoholism deal, it was me. Yeah. But when they finally took the kids off me, my girl, the last thing my daughter said to me, age 3 or 4, she said, Daddy, please stop drinking. And I couldn't do it. You know, so it's beyond anybody's mental control. And that's what I just wish that we could educate more people on. There's a difference between, you know, someone who abuses alcohol and an alcoholic. One should go to jail if he misbehaves, and the other should go into treatment or hospital because it's not their fault. And that's the biggest. And we always get people today still arguing with me. There's no argument. There's no argument. It's a predisposition. If you think you're an alcoholic, trace it in your family. If your dad's not an alcoholic or your mom, trace it back to their moms and dads, and you'll find it there.
Yeah, in my case, it was my dad. My dad was really alcoholic. My dad beat my mum up. I saw it all, and you know, and when I was, as I said, you know, and I kind of like it came to me, and I was beating my partner up, and there's a choice. I could have gone to a rehab or gone to jail, you know, and I had to go to rehab and do the thing. So I went to rehab, you know, and I had to sort my life out.
Yeah, it's the only way to do it sometimes. Otherwise, you're going to drink yourself into an early grave. Or, as my wife's brother did, when I first met her, she told me a story of a brother that was at the party with everybody, and he made arrangements to meet my wife 2 days later. And he went home and he was happy, and the kids and the wife and everything. And he walked into the garage, he picked a gun up and shot himself in the head. And he died before he hit the floor. Chronic alcoholic. You know, this is the stuff that happens to us. I mean, people just, you know, they want to put it down as something else. It's alcoholism. My neural pathways are all distorted. And if you're an alcoholic brain that has trauma like you do with your mom and dad fighting every night, you know, that's childhood trauma. If you don't sort that stuff out, it will come and sort you out. And it's not very nice. You end up with an insane illness that just wants to kill you. So you're fighting every day for your life. So what I did is I just started drinking every day to get rid of that feeling, that nervousness in the stomach.
Yeah, I was doing that. Also, I want to pick up a couple points before I finish. You said something about lie detectors, you know, because you've been using lie detectors.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome. I'm glad you saw that. Yeah, we actually, and again, intrigued. I'm always trying to learn more about the disease. So when I relapsed or drank, I would swear to my wife, hand on a Bible, I'm not going to drink, and I always end up drinking, and I couldn't understand why. So we got like 4 or 5, 6 guys. I can't remember how many. It was about 10 years ago. This, and constant relapses. Not our patient. It's just constant relapses. Who was getting on with life, and we brought them in, and we offered them some sort of prize as something that you can stay sober for 7 days, and everyone got on the lie detector and said, I will stay sober for 7 days, which we thought awesome. and they passed the test. They wasn't telling lies. They're going to do 7 days. All of them relapsed within 3 days. So what that told us is in their minds, there was no way he's going to drink. It was over. But when the disease attacked and the trauma set in, then they relapsed every single time. And I thought that was really interesting. So again, going back to those people who said it's a choice. It's not a choice. It really isn't. You really need to be educated about alcoholism. And especially, and here's the other thing. If everybody knows somebody who has a problem with alcohol and drugs, everybody. And if you don't know anybody, it's probably you. Because like you said at the beginning of the program, which I love, by the way, is everybody has an addiction. They do, you know, whether it be good or bad. But, you know, I heard some of the days they said, hey, Rob, I go to the gym every day. That can't be bad. I said, what time do you go? 6 till 9. Are you married? Well, yeah, but, you know, got kids and everything. Don't you think that's abandonment with your family? You train every single night? That's an addiction. It's going to cause trouble to the kids later on in life because dad was never there.
Yeah, I know. But the trouble is, so see, lie detectors are not kind of like actually true, are they? Because they say that it's around about 80% to 99%.
Well, the reason why them figures are in is because if you know what you're doing, or if you're taking marijuana or any other downers, then you can actually pass a lie detector test. That's why it's not being allowed in courts, and you have to be free of all drugs to take it. Well, most people that take out the lie detectors don't tell anybody they're on drugs. You know, some people can pass it just by being calm.
Jeremy Kyle show did it.
Yes, exactly.
Then they got found. Then they got taken to court and got found out.
Yes. Yeah.
What do you think about that?
You know, it's pros and cons again. You know, everything works if you give it a chance, but there's also negative sides to the other side. Nothing's ever perfect. Nothing ever works 100% in life, and I kind of like that about life. You never know what's coming today. It's not mundane. It's not, you know, it's either black or it's white. I love the gray area in life. I really do.
Right. Okay. Great. Thank you very much. Okay. And if people are suffering with alcohol today, what advice and what help can you give them?
Well, you need to get help. That's for sure. So start dialogue with somebody. All we do today is telehealth. So we can work with anybody in the world. Call us. We'll give you advice. We won't ask you to sign up or anything. We'll give you advice. My name's all over the internet. Click on it, get the phone number or email, and get in contact with us. But before you do all that, start dialogue with somebody, because most alcoholics isolate. They love to isolate and away from people because they're embarrassed of who they are. So it's really hard picking up the phone in the early days. But start dialogue with somebody. Tell your best friend or, you know, your wife or your ex-wife. It makes no difference once you can confide and tell them you think you have a problem with alcohol. And I'll tell you something. If anybody says they have a problem with alcohol, or do I have a problem with alcohol? The answer is always yeah.
Yeah. But the trouble is, Dr. Rob, they got to admit it stage before they change, isn't it, really?
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
And this is what we do on here. We kind of like we have all different guests on here, and we try to help everybody, you know, with mental health, alcohol, all sorts of stuff.
It's
Thank
awesome.
you very much for coming on and giving me your time. I really appreciate that.
Of course. You're awesome. Thank you for everything you do, by the way.
Yeah, and I'd love to get you back on and talk to you some more if it's any chance.
Of course. Anything. Just, you know, my girl Courtney, just
Yeah.
grab the diary and get me on again. I'd love to come back and talk. This has been great.
Thank you so much.
No problems.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dr. Rob. Thank you. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was an insight, wasn't it? That was Dr. Rob. He's done TV, he's been on television, he's done radio and everything. And yes, okay, I had to answer, you know, give him some questions and answers and everything. But the trouble is, in life, you know, we need to know what's going on. And alcohol is a big problem. And the only time, the time is when you got know the problem is when you got to admit it that you have a problem and you deal with it. Anyway, guys, I've got to go. But in the meantime, God bless you and speak to you later. Bye bye.